Once again, there is another combat beta update. I have the RuneScape website pulled up with the update. There was one last week on Thursday that had quite a few changes, and we already got one here on Tuesday, although at time of recording it is Wednesday. I'm recording this quite late. Now, if you want to access the beta, all you have to do is click up on this arrow here for showing all of your hidden stuff, right-click exit on the Jagex launcher, and then click the Jagex launcher link. If not, you can click this one if you're not on the Jagex launcher in order to just go normally and get into the beta that way. And there are also step-by-step instructions written out here. But let's go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes of what's actually changing in the beta. First off, critical strike damage for level 90 has been upped from 35 to 50%. And basically what they're saying is that crits felt a little bit too low on a damage roll. They didn't feel exciting enough, so they bumped up the damage to try and fix that problem. Now, I should mention that this is a combat beta, as it's been said multiple times, and everywhere it is a combat beta, and they're going to limit test things. They're going to take things that they think are a bit of a bad idea or something wild in concept and just test it out. And originally they dropped the adrenaline gain on the critical strike adrenaline buff from Meteor, Incendiary Shot, and Tsunami down to 6%. And that obviously felt terrible. I didn't even make a video on that beta change because it just felt that awful to do anything. And they've upped it to 8%. They didn't put it back on 10% so far. So we'll see how that feels. I have a feeling that's not going to feel that great, and it should just go back to the 10%. Greater Fury now has a 15-second cooldown, but it is back on the guaranteed critical strike chance. So they're trying to make G Fury a consistent crit buff, but they realize that 5.4 seconds with a consistent crit is hyper strong. So in a Zerk, you're only getting one ability to guarantee crit. This could either be a Dragon Claw. I would assume most people are going to use this with Overpower, but we'll play with some rotations and give it a shot. The Lang Swords have been changing a lot. They have an entire special attack and how that works. I did explain this in an earlier video. Basically, they did away with the adrenaline gain from the passive effect of Lang Swords, but now the primordial ice stacks are stored on the player instead of the target. I don't know if weapon switching will cancel that, but we'll have to find out. The primordial ice strikes now reduce the cost of the weapon special attack by 6% per stack, so it's kind of acting in the same vein of Touch of Death and Finger Blast, or Finger of Death was what it's actually called, and the maximum number of stacks you can hold is now 10. Bow of the Last Guardian has gotten buffed. They were claiming it was hitting a little bit too low because they nerfed Dark Bow, and so they're just adjusting some of the damage numbers here. Interestingly enough, they made it to where when arrows now proc on weapon specs, so your SGBs can proc a one arrow effect, dark bows, anything like that, and they up the damage. So I might play with these, although when arrows I just find largely obnoxious to use anywhere, and upping the arrows could be an interesting alternative. However, I think the 15% damage from full arrows is just too hard to justify not using, unless of course you're at a place like Vorkath or Elite Dungeon 2 and you can use the jazz arrows. But the rest of this is just updating a bunch of HP for quest bosses. I really don't care about this too much. I'm not a quester. I spacebar everything. It looks like they did some other stuff, and apparently they did some stuff with magic ability animations and something with SGB spec. So let's go ahead and get into the beta and test all of these things out. Now, I think off the rip I probably should test magic somewhere. I was really enjoying Iban's staff with the whole update. Again, I don't have the Siliske armor giving a 5% crit buff from the Tuska effect, but I think we can have some fun with it nonetheless. And I'll probably test it at SLAPS, see how it feels. The beta, though, has been very laggy for me. If we go in here and do display FPS in the console, my ping right now is 120, which isn't too bad. However, earlier it was sitting in like the 230 range, which was just unplayable. So hopefully this number doesn't go too high and I'm actually able to play in the beta. Well, let's just see if we have a preset that I can pick and just go from there. All right, I have a base preset here loaded up, and we'll go ahead and test some Solak. So we'll grab some adrenaline and head on over. We'll just go ahead, reset Manny, because it doesn't matter. Won't bother extending it. Go ahead and start, and we'll just kind of do a standard start. Won't do anything super fancy, although I probably should keybind a few things that might be helpful. I don't need Vitpot bounds, so yeah, it looks decent enough. All right, we'll just send it. We'll see how P1 feels. So far, the damage feels pretty decent. I'll go ahead and auto into an Ibans here and then do attendees. It only hit a 16-9, but it didn't crit. Overall, that wasn't too bad on the root skip. I'm kind of low on HP, and we'll just go ahead and kill the roots here. Overall, that didn't feel too bad. That felt a lot closer to what was kind of ideal beforehand. Like 8% feels manageable, but I think it should just go back to the 10% as far as the crit adren is concerned. We'll go ahead and get some damage out on the arms. Interesting how they updated all the animations to actually, you know, have the right number of hits and whatnot, at least sound-wise. That's kind of nice. That felt nice. Hidden Omni Power into attendees on the core. Wait for that fourth hit. Yeah, that's about as disgusting as I remember. And I was able to just do the normal rotation because I actually was getting adrenaline from crits. About what I expect. It feels about the same as from when I was testing beforehand. Oh, we got signed there. That's not good. Like, it's not bad damage, and I'm not doing, like, you know, the best job doing damage. I'm just kind of playing it by ear. But I definitely noticed the difference of the 8% crit versus the 10% crit. I've definitely been noticing that so far, and I think it should just probably go back to 10%. I think their whole obsession of it being too strong is a little bit ill-founded. I'll get into that a little bit more at the end of the video, but we'll go ahead and see where this Sunshine puts us at. Do a bit more damage here. Got no crits on that G-Conk. That's kind of annoying. Having the Iban is a nice dump, but not exactly having the adrenaline to use it is kind of annoying. Oh, we fell over. Well, I could pull a classic YouTuber and just blame it on the ping and say the game ate my input, but I just hit the wrong input there. Overall, it felt decent. I was noticing the adren difference of 2% from the live game rotations compared to this one, and even a couple updates ago on the combat beta, I'm noticing a difference so far. So another place I should probably test this magic setup is at Dino Boss, see if I can get myself another pool skip like I did the last time I was in here. So we'll go ahead and do just the same thing. Go in, we'll start, surge, place a dummy, and then some people would use natural instinct. I most of the time didn't, although I never really hyper used this method too much. And natty does kind of make sense, so we'll just build up here. Use our Nami, our FSOA spec, build up some adren, start the fight, use a G-Conk. Did not get the what's its face off. Can I release this into a... I can. Into an Iban staff, I meant. Oh, that felt pretty decent so far. I didn't really have adren issues there too much, but now we just kind of sit here in threshold and just keep working up and then waiting for our Sunshine basically to come off cooldown. So we have our Sunshine available, so go ahead and pop it. I probably should hit Smoke Cloud. That might be a decent idea. And see how this works. We charge up a detonate. Into an Iban. Not quite. But I think we got it. Alright, so it does work. It was a slow skip for sure. It's in the 120s, and I had to use APOT. There are definitely ways to speed that up, but the skip did work, so that was kind of fun. And then we just kind of sit here and do some damage. And now we'll just finish off the kill to see what the kill time is. Oh, a nice little relent proc. That's always appreciated. Overall, that wasn't too bad of a kill. 225 is a little bit slow, although I am definitely by no means an expert on this type of skipping. Or this method of pool skipping, I should say. This is definitely something I was never strong at. I never really did it too much back in the day when it was more popular. And this was all pre-FSOA nerf for those who don't know. But the method does work still. I'm sure someone could optimize it. Sunshine feels pretty strong. I could go ahead and do a dummy rotation just to see what that number is real quick. So let's go do that. All right, I have a dummy loaded up here. Let's see how this goes. I don't remember what I did last time. I don't think I pre-stack build, so I'll just kind of do a standard rotation, at least my standard rotation, just so it's kind of similar to what I've been doing. No crits there is kind of a bummer. So far it feels decent. Got another Ibans in there. Wait for the FSOA spec. and call it. 368, that's kind of weak. I'll go ahead and do a couple more tests just to see what that number is like, and we'll go from there. 418's a little bit better, but I did go ahead and get a relent proc, and that feels kind of normal. I am also on Zerk Aura. I forgot about that, but I'll go ahead and do one more run just to make sure. So we got 410k on that one. I saw 418k on the other one, and then the other was a 380, which I thought was kind of low. And I think part of that is the other Sunshine I did, the one I tested, was with Inquisitor, and I got an abnormal amount of crits on that one. So I think I was able to get out 5 or 6 Iban staffs on that one. So partially it is Inquisitor damage, and I'm kind of using that in my head, but I was expecting more of like the 430k, maybe to 450k, somewhere in that range for a Sunshine. But I think what it comes down to is the crit adren just being slightly worse, and you're not going to be able to get out as many Iban staff specs. I didn't see anything about Iban staff being nerfed, so magic damage is definitely down in this iteration of the beta. If anything, it's kind of where it was. With full tilt and a G staff on the live game, you should be seeing anywhere from 380 to 400k damage on your Sunshines. And I believe that is off aura. It could be on aura, but around this damage mark is what you're going to be seeing anyways. Although in this beta, with everything being squished, it's going to be a lot more consistent on here than it is in the live game. But let's go ahead and look at the other styles. Alrighty, I have a pretty straightforward preset loaded up here. I'm going to try this at Solak, and no, I will not be using Beck Arrow. I want to keep it to a crit build and see how that damage feels, because that's basically what's getting changed here on the game. So we'll go ahead and get loaded up and ready to head out. All right, we'll pop Reckless Aura and just see how this feels. I'm just going to kind of do my standard P1 rotation. This doesn't involve building stacks on a dummy or anything crazy like that. It's just a pretty straightforward rotation, and we'll see how it plays out. Although I usually do this on a poison build when I'm duoing, but that's enough ramble. Let's just go ahead and get on with this. All right, that was a pretty clean root skip. That wasn't too bad. And now let's go ahead and kill the roots. We are quite juicing the relic here, but it's not too bad. And let's kill off all the roots so I don't get sniped later. And let's go ahead and build up our DS here. And that was a pretty easy core, I won't lie. I'm not noticing the adrenaline loss as much on range, just because, you know, it's range. That's how this style is. This style was overloaded with adrenaline. Getting a couple abilities here. I probably shouldn't be ECBing during this phase. I forgot to bulk spec at one point, so that's unfortunate. Hit a couple dark bows. We're kind of burning through food, but the damage feels nice. Damage does feel slow here, but I'm also on a crit build, so that's kind of it. I'm also sure some rangers are watching these rotations and are absolutely cringing right now, but it is what it is. I haven't done too much solo range, other than like the very first beta test. Freedom, so I can hit the stun. That was quite a bit of damage. That was significant. Oh, geez. We are dead. Okay, I kind of got nuked there, but overall the damage felt nice. So actually, instead of going and testing P1 Solak for everything, I actually want to go do a melee 500% Zammy kill. I enjoy melee Zam, it's a lot of fun, and so I'm just gonna see how different it is on my preset doing it now in the beta versus the live game and from other iterations that I've tested. So let's get suited up and head on over. And for all of this testing so far, these are the relics I've been using, and they're the ones I pretty much use all the time. Although with range, you can use heightened senses, and it is technically better. I'm usually lazy and don't swap it out. Figured I'd point that out while I'm sitting here and swapping my spell book, but we can go ahead and load up our preset and head on over to Zam. All right, have everything set up in rage mode, last using rage 500, and we'll see how this feels. I have a feeling P7's gonna get melted, and so is everything else because of the hit cap, but we shall see what the damage actually feels like. Luckily, I don't have to sit here and deal with length spec anymore for the hit cap increase that's already there, but we're ready to go. Let's see how this feels. Okay, that was a lot of damage. That felt really nice. I keep forgetting that the cooldown for G Fury is now a lot longer. I also noticed I forgot to bind Shard and Shatter, but I don't think that's going to be necessary anymore. Also forgot to anticipate here. Barge. I don't have access to Hurricane anymore, so maybe I could put something in its place. Maybe I could move an ability around or something like that. We'll put a bleed on him, and we'll just run over here, kind of rinse, repeat the process. Oh yeah, this boss is getting melted at 500%. This is insane. I didn't even Chaos Roar that overpower. I just used G Fury to guarantee the crit, and it just went. That's insane. I also need to remember that P7, the runes have been adjusted. We'll see if I actually remember that change. But yeah, this feels like a 300% to me still. This is nutty. Get a little cheeky divert here into a barge. But we'll go ahead and rinse, repeat the process. I'm just going to go ahead and fast forward unless something funny happens. And we'll go to P7.
10 seconds later.
I just phased that before the... I just phased that before the regen of adrenaline. What was that? Oh man, meleeers are gonna have a lot of fun here. Everyone rejoice, melee is OP again. I mean, to be fair, it probably should be pretty strong considering it has like all of the T95s right now, whereas the other two styles only have like a two-hander. So like, in that sense, it makes sense, but man, this is strong. It's kind of nice to see. Not having to deal with that hit cap there is really nice. It makes that P6 a lot nicer. Alrighty, now we're on to P7. Let's see how this goes. How badly can I screw this one up? That was the easiest P4 I've ever done. I think that was 4 global cooldowns. My goodness. Oh no, I'm green. I'm green in the beta. Oh no, what is it? If that's log, I'm gonna cry. Oh, thank God. Oh, I forgot. I have bad luck mitigation in the game. Oh man. Okay, all right, we're keeping that in. Yeah, we're keeping that in. Jeez, that's insane. All right, let's go ahead and do a wrap up. So here are some wrap up thoughts about the combat beta in its current iteration. It definitely feels leaps and bounds better than the last update, where they nerfed the adrenaline gain from crits on a crit buffing ultimate, such as Meteor Strike, Incendiary Shot, or Tsunami, down to 6%. That felt terrible. I really couldn't play the game. None of my rotations worked, and even trying to adapt gameplay, it was really annoying. So now that it's at 8%, it's playable again, and I can actually test out rotations. However, Magic feels to have lost out the most from the crit buff nerf, being that it finally got its adrenaline dump, and now its big adrenaline gain is kind of gone. And you may be thinking to yourself, car guy, it's only 2%, it can't make that much of a difference, right? And well, if you think about it, if you crit 25 times, which does sound like a lot, but G-Conk can crit 3 times pretty consistently, if not 2. Tendies is a guaranteed 4 crits, and those ones can go. Any autos you're tossing out, there's a lot of hit spam when it comes to Magic, and those crits add up and usually make up for the last Iban spec. So the 8% reduction makes Magic just a bit more RNG to get its good damage in, especially if they want to keep Iban Staff as the premier adrenaline dump for Magic. Range, I didn't notice it as much because it has the guaranteed effect with rapid fire, so I'm not noticing the crit gain as much. Although with Gricko, it definitely was noticeable, missing out on a potential 14% adrenaline gain from a Gricko. Being that 2% per crit, and you know, there are 7 hits with Gricko, it was definitely noticeable there. And melee felt strong regardless, but then again, I also only tested it at Zammy because I only have really been testing melee, or using melee I should say, at Zamorak. It's really the only place I use it at, unless it's part of a hybrid setup. I want to get back into melee, and I think once the combat beta is over and done with and I'm really able to sink my teeth back into the combat style, that's when I'm really going to be enjoying melee a lot more. And as you can see, it was very, very effective at Zamorak specifically. I could see some hilarious rotations at like 1k enrage or maybe at 2k enrage if you can survive the hit. Maybe if you want to use ZGS instead, or like pre-build an easy K on there and then have ZGS going as a survival thing. I could see some hilarious rotations coming from that, maybe even factoring in Dragon Battle Axe, because Dragon Battle Axe in the beta is multiplicative, not additive. Now there's a lot of fancy numbers and formulas and stuff that go on behind the scenes, but in short, it makes Dragon Battle Axe a bit stronger than it really should be, in my opinion. In the last video I made during Berserks alone, I think it was worth almost 100k damage just having Dragon Battle Axe active. I think my average was 250 to 275k without Dragon Battle Axe, and with it active, I think it was anywhere from 320 to 350k per Berserk. So it's hyper strong in the combat beta. And to be fair, melee probably should be as strong. I've made these points, 100 times before in the other videos. I don't want to ramble on too long, but of the changes that are in here, I think G Fury being 15 second for a guaranteed crit is an interesting solution to try and mitigate RNG and actually start rotation building. The adrenaline buff back up to 8% from the crit buffing ultimates is definitely a welcome change over the 6%. However, I think it should just go back to the 10%. And if they really want to tone down Range's ability to spam Dark Bow, you just make Dark Bow cost more adrenaline. It would be a pretty simple solution, or maybe tune Dracolich's effect or something like that. But anyways, before I ramble on, I hope this version of a beta update where it's more of a live testing and live playthrough with live commentary is an interesting format rather than just me talking with footage in the background. But I am going to call the video there. Thank you all very much for watching. Your viewership is greatly appreciated. Have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, nighttime, whatever it is, wherever you are, and I will see you next time for the next video. Peace.